Yes, from one comic act to another. William McGonagall, self-styled poet and tragedian, is chiefly remembered today for the transcendent awfulness of his verse. But in his youth, he played Macbeth in Dundee with a professional company. His own account of the event displays a characteristic immunity to self-irony.
My first appearance on any stage was in Mr. Giles's theatre, which was in Lindsay Street Quarry some years ago. I cannot give the exact date, but it's a very long time ago. The theatre was built of brick, somewhat similar to Mr. McGivern's at the top of Seagate. The character that I appeared in was Macbeth, Mrs. Giles sustaining the character of Lady Macbeth on that occasion, which she performed admirably. The way that I was allowed to perform was in terms of the following agreement, which was entered into between Mr. Giles and myself, that I had to give Mr. Giles £1 in cash before the performance, which I considered rather hard. But as there was no help for it, I made known Mr. Giles's terms to my shopmates, who were handloom weavers in Seagate, and Seafield Works, Taylor's Lane. No sooner were the terms made known to them than they entered heartily into the arrangement, and in a very short time they made up the £1 by subscription, and with one accord declared that they would go and see me perform the Thane of Fife, alias Macbeth. When the great night arrived, my shopmates were in high glee with the hope of getting a Shakespearean treat from the humble servant, and I can assure you, without boasting, they were not disappointed in their anticipations, my shopmates having secured seats before the general public were admitted. It would be impossible for me to describe the scene in Lindsay Street, as it was crowded from head to foot, all being eager to witness my first appearance as an exponent of Shakespeare. When I appeared on the stage, I was received with a perfect storm of applause. But when I exclaimed, "Come on, do they make a halt upon the heath?" the applause was deafening and was continued during the entire evening, especially so during the combat scene. I was called before the curtain several times during the performance. I remember the actors of the company felt very jealous, owing to me getting the general applause, and several were as bold as to tell me so. And when it came to the combat scene betwixt me and Macduff, the actor who was playing Macduff against my Macbeth tried to spoil me in the combat by telling me to cut it short, so as the audience, in his opinion, would say it was a poor combat. But I was too cute for him, guessing his motive for it. I continued the combat until he was fairly exhausted, and until there was one old gentleman in the audience cried out, "Well done, McGonagall! Walk into him!" And so I did, until he was in a great rage and stamped his foot and cried out, "Fool, why don't you fall?" And when I did fall, the cry was, "McGonagall, McGonagall, bring him out, bring him out!" And I had to come before the curtain and receive an ovation from the audience. The house was crowded during each of the 3 performances on that ever memorable night, which can never be forgot by me or my shopmates, and even entire strangers included. At the end of each performance, I was called before the curtain and received plaudit after plaudit of applause in recognition of my able interpretation of Macbeth.